morning, everybody. How is your day going? You're welcome to Legal Clues on Emirate Radio. And as you know, on Legal Clues, we bring you closer to the laws. We give you tips on things you should know to give you informed decisions on legal issues. On Legal Clues, we try to help you to bring knowledge to you. As you know that in law, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. My name is Damilola Obadimeji, your host on this program. On today's episode of Legal Clues, we'll be discussing things you can be arrested for in Nigeria. Let me put it this way, to be trivial things you think are trivial and you probably don't avert your mind to, that are criminal in nature but can, cause your arrest and eventually sometimes lead to imprisonment. Is to bring you, tips that will let you know that there are some things you don't avert your mind to as criminal in nature, but at the end of the day can lead to your arrest, ultimately in some cases, imprisonment. The first one I'll be talking about is spending part or all of the money sent erroneously or mistakenly to your account. There are cases whereby people might want to transfer money to an account, but probably they omitted some numbers or they mistakenly sent that money to your account. And you are aware that the money is not meant for you. You are aware that the money was erroneously sent to you and you went ahead to spend part of it or the whole of it. It can land you 2 years imprisonment if you are not careful. What should you do if you discover that some amount of money was sent to your account erroneously? The first thing to do is to, notify your bank. Let your bank know that you observe that a certain amount of money entered your account and you've been credited, and the bank will do the needful by sending it back to whosoever credited your account with that money. If you go ahead to spend that money, you could be charged, with retaining wrongful credit under the Theft Act of 1968. So what we are trying to tell you is that you should know that when you notice that the money was erroneously transferred to your account, what you should do is to notify your bank. Tell them you observed this. The bank will know how to do the needful instead of you going ahead to spend the whole or part of the money. Another thing that you can be arrested for in Nigeria, and if care is not taken, you can be in prison, is littering. Possibly you just think you just finished taking coke now, you threw the bottle on the road, and littering of public places can lead to imprisonment of up to 1 month or fine if care is not taken under the Environmental Act. So whenever you take something while on the road, do well by keeping those things you need to throw away till you get to wherever you're going to and dispose it appropriately. Another instance that you probably will commit some things and you think is a trivial thing is where you insult a public officer. You all know who public officers are: people who carry out offices as activities that are created by law, people who work with agencies that are created under the law. If you insult a public officer, especially where he's on uniform, you can land yourself imprisonment up to 3 months under the criminal code in Nigeria. Another instance where you will commit some things you think this is so trivial, cannot lead to anything, is where you refuse to pay your tax. Tax evasion is an offense under the law. Some of you will think, what has the government done for me? Have I benefited anything from the government? And you think, I don't want to do anything, I don't want to pay my tax. If you're caught that you're evading taxes, it's a criminal offense that can land you imprisonment if you are not careful. Another thing that you think is so trivial is playing of loud music in excessive volume. For example, in Lagos State, you play loud music, especially in the night, and excessive volume beyond the reasonable man, you understand, you can land yourself imprisonment for disturbing the peace. That is in Lagos State. For other states, it could constitute an act of public nuisance, which is also a tort action can be held against you. So, the Gen Zs that plays music anyhow, and you want to just show that you are woke, you need to be careful, because there are some things that you don't know are against the law and can land you imprisonment if you're not careful. It might not be, a long-term jail, but a month, being in prison for a month, you don't want to have that. So you should be careful while you're behaving. The next one I have here is not reporting a crime. Probably you observed or you were a witness to a commission of a crime, and the investigation is ongoing. You know it within yourself who committed this thing was committed, and you refuse, to report it. you can be arrested for that. If care is not taken, could land yourself in imprisonment, which you don't want to. Up to 3 months, sometimes imprisonment up to 3 months if care is not taken. Another thing that can land you in jail if you are not careful is making false statements to public officers. Probably an investigation is going on and you intentionally made false statements to them. You can be arrested for that. You can be investigated, arrested for that. If care is not taken, you can be jailed for that for up to 2 years under the criminal code in Nigeria here. Another one is disobeying court order. When you disobey the order of court, a valid order of court, that is what we call contempt of court. And you can be jailed for that. You can be imprisoned for contempt of court. So whenever you know there's an order of court mandating you or ordering you to do a particular thing, it is in your own good interest to carry such acts, to carry out. Otherwise, you just might be held in contempt of court. Another one is when you abuse, when you use abusive language in public spaces. Some of you, will curse in public spaces. You just say words that you shouldn't be saying in public places. Using abusive language in public can result to imprisonment to up to 3 months under the law. Let's go on a short break now. When we come back, we'll start from where we started. You're welcome back to Legal Clues on Emirate Radio. For the purpose of people just joining us, we are talking about trivial things you think are trivial to you but can, get you arrested and eventually, sometimes, get you imprisoned if care is not taken. We have mentioned some, starting from, using abusive language in the public space, spending part or whole of the money sent to you, erroneously sent to your account. That can also be you can be arrested for that. Another thing we've talked about is littering public places. We have said is against the Environmental Act and you should be careful. We have talked about insulting public officers. We have also talked about when you refuse to pay your taxes, that is tax evasion. We have talked about playing loud music in excessive volumes, particularly in Lagos State. That is a law that is in place in Lagos State that can land you imprisonment if care is not taken. We have talked about when you witness a crime and you refuse to report that crime. We have talked about making false statements to a public officer. We have also talked about disobeying court order that can make you be in contempt of court and can land you imprisonment if care is not taken. And we have also talked about using abusive language in public places. Now, another thing we want you to know that can get you arrested sometimes is breach of promise to marry. If you have promised a lady or a man that you want to marry the person, not probably with words of mouth alone, probably you have engaged the person, you have committed the person, there is proof, the person can prove that you have promised him or her statutory marriage, and for no reason you jilted the person or you refuse to carry it out, the person can sue you and you can be made to pay damages for breaching that promise to marry. So for some of you, particularly men, that goes about promising more than one person or women marriages, be careful. You need to be careful. Another thing that you will not believe is witchcraft. Under the Nigerian law, whether you believe it or not, under the Nigerian Criminal Code, it's against witchcraft. And according to Section 210 of the Criminal Code, any person at all who by his statement or action represents himself or herself to be a witch or to have the power of witchcraft is guilty of a misdemeanor and is liable to 2 years imprisonment. So that is also what you don't know. You probably do not know it's an offense under the law. It is an offense in Nigeria for you to claim that you are a witch. Another thing that you might not put your mind to is unlawfully wearing the uniform of armed forces. This is so common. We see girls and boys, guys wearing camouflage colors, colors of the Nigerian army. You think you're being woke, you're wearing a shirt that is camouflage, you're wearing a trouser, a camouflage trouser. It is against the law for you to wear any uniform, anything that resembles, has the emblem of the Nigerian armed forces. So whether you know this or not, we are bringing it to your hearing that if you are not a member of Nigerian armed forces and you wear their uniform or any part of their uniform or any dress at all that have the appearance or bearing of any of their regimental or distinctive mark of uniforms, you'll be guilty of an offense. Is liable to a fine and 1 month imprisonment, a fine or 1 month imprisonment. So those are just examples of things you don't know, and they are against the law that can land you imprisonment if care is not taken. The only saving grace where you wear a camouflage or any uniform of the Nigerian armed forces is if wearing that uniform or dress, if you have taken permission from the governor, if you have the permission of the president of the governor of the state where you're wearing it, then you might probably not be held liable. But if this is not the case, you will be held liable. So some people don't know. We see ladies, men wearing trousers, camouflage trouser or tops. This is against the Nigerian law. Another thing that you don't put your mind towards is if probably your property was stolen and you want to recover, and you place an announcement out for a reward for stolen property, that if somebody returns it, it's going to be rewarded. This is also a crime under the law. It's as if you are supporting or you're not against the act of stealing. Another thing that can land you in prison if care is not taken is where you motivate or you challenge others to fight. Under the section 88 of our criminal code in Nigeria provides that anybody or any person who challenges another person to a duel or attempts to provoke another person to fight a duel or attempts to provoke anybody to fight at all is guilty of a felony and is liable to imprisonment for 3 years. So you should be careful. Fighting in Nigeria is a crime, or motivating people or challenging people to fight is a crime in Nigeria. Another thing that is also a crime that you probably will not avert your mind to, and is so common, is when you insult religions. You are not expected to insult other people's religion, even your religion at all. According to our criminal code under section 204, any person who does an act which is considered as a public insult on a religion is guilty of a misdemeanor and is liable to imprisonment for 2 years. So all those people that engage in religious fights and just talk carelessly online, there are cases like that. People talk online, insult other people's religion. You should know that this is an offense, it's a crime in Nigeria, can land you imprisonment of 2 years if care is not taken. Another thing where I'm going to be stopping here is offenses of cruelty on animals. We just think it's only in abroad that things like this exist, but it actually exists here in Nigeria too. If you are cruel to an animal, our criminal code provides that if anybody cruelly beats, kicks, ill-treats, or overrides, tortures, infuriates, or terrifies any animals, or causes or procure, or being the owner permits any animal to be used for torturing and cruelty, is guilty of an offense. So you should know that if you can be guilty of an offense of cruelty against animals in Nigeria, and will make you liable to imprisonment of 6 months or a fine of just 50 naira, or both if care is not taken. So these are examples of trivial things you think are trivial and cannot really hold water, but not knowing that they are criminal in nature, and if care is not taken, they can land you jail terms or imprisonment of though a few months, but even if it's going to be a day, nobody wants to spend a day in prison. So things like this are things that can land you in prison if care is not taken. Let me run them over again. We have offenses of cruelty on animals. Is an offense to be cruel on animals. We have insulting religions, where you insult other people's religion, even your own religion. Insulting religions is an offense in Nigeria. Where you motivate or challenge others to fight is an offense in Nigeria. When you make reward available for stolen property it is an offense. When you unlawfully wear the uniform of the armed forces or any part of their uniform, it is an offense in Nigeria. It is an offense in Nigeria as well for you to be a witch. Witchcraft is an offense in Nigeria. We have also breach of promise to marry, where there's cogent evidence the person can prove that you indeed promised the person statutory marriage under the act by probably engaging the person and other cogent evidences that the person can prove that can make you guilty to pay damages where you're being sued for breach of promise to marry. Where you use abusive language in public can also be an offense under the criminal code in Nigeria. Where you disobey court order, that is what we call contempt of court, can lead you to imprisonment if care is not taken. Where you make false statement to public officers, especially in the course of investigation, that is a crime, is an offense in Nigeria. Where you witness a commission of an offense and you did not report it, it can also be an offense. Also, when you don't report the crime, like I said, failure to report such crime is an offense. Playing music loudly in excessive volume is an offense clearly stated in Lagos State, but in other states it can be held as disturbing the public nuisance. Another instance where you might think this is trivial and cannot land you in prison, but can actually do, is where you refuse to pay your taxes, tax evasion. Also, where you insult public officers, especially when they're in their uniform, it's an offense. Also, where you litter public places is an offense under the Environmental Act. So bear in mind that we want to litter things, don't just throw things anyhow on the road. You take it gently and dispose it well. Another thing that can land you in jail if you are not careful is when you spend part or whole of the money that was erroneously or mistakenly transferred to your account. What should you do when you notice something like this, erroneous transfer of money to your account? Notify your bank. The bank will know how to go about returning same to the person who sent it to you. So this is where we're going to end today's program. Until next week, where we are going to give you another exciting topic to discuss on legal clues. Please remain blessed. God bless you all.